From Wakefield, it's the Nolan Car Night Show, inviting you to join Nolan as guest this week, Sean Colson, to the show. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's Nolan. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the show. And as we get closer to the milestone 100th episode, I have yet again another amazing and awesome guest. Not only is he a legend on the court as a player, but also as a trainer/coach around the country for players from the youth age to professionals. He's also a marvelous guy, as I had told him earlier, for giving me his time to do this, so it means a great deal. He also shared something with me, is that he's also a former Rhode Island Ram before he went to the University of North Carolina, Charlotte. He is the one and only Mr. Sean Colson. Sean, how are you today?
How you doing, buddy?
We're doing our best in these times, although I like to say crazy times, but it seems as though it's sort of dying down. But there's always something that's going on that ruffles some feathers, you know?
Right.
As I just said, sort of crazy times to an extent, in mentioning you're a trainer of several different levels of basketball players from the youth age to the professional level. One of your most famous clients being DeAndre Hunter. What's it been like for you these last 2 years, almost 3 years, doing this throughout these times, and now seeing as we're sort of near the end of it?
Well, it's been a little bit tough, just because of the times and, with COVID starting, then, ramping up and now obviously dying down. It's been a issue far as, just gyms and things like that. Luckily, I've been blessed that I've been able to kind of always have a gym throughout this process. So, just putting in the work, man, as long as you got a gym and you got some players and you got a place to do it, it's time to put the work in. So that's what we do.
Exactly. Hey, as long as you got four walls and a surface that bounces a ball, that's all that matters.
Yep. Something like that.
Exactly. Yes. What's one thing Sean Colson has learned? What is one thing Sean Colson has learned about himself during these times that he didn't learn beforehand?
I would say just to be even more. I'm a person that's blessed, so I've had a really good life so far and come from humble beginnings, but things are been great for me. So I just always want to be thankful.
Sure.
Because so many people that's not here anymore, guys that I played against, guys that I know, and obviously just everybody. I obviously have a mother, I have a grandmother, I have moms. I mean, I have just all kinds of family, wife,
sure.
Like all of those things. So kids, and everybody's been impacted, but I'm just actually happy to be here,
sure.
To be honest, and that everyone else is here. So just to learn to be very, very grateful, I guess I would say.
Sure. Your story begins growing up in Philly, over in Pennsylvania. What were aspirations of yours that you had playing basketball? What were those aspirations as a whole for kids your age growing up in Philly?
I mean, everybody dreams of playing the NBA and things like that. So I always had that dream since I was a young kid, and I always felt like I was a hard worker for the most part, and just dangerous times, for obviously where I grew up at. So you're just trying to just make it every day. And, basketball was a way out, really like baseball.
Sure.
Baseball is actually my favorite sport, and basketball was second. So, I just really just concentrated and played baseball and basketball like all the time. I mean, when you're an athlete, a lot of times you miss out on a normal childhood.
Sure.
Not going for weekends or with your friends or your cousins or family and things like that. Because I was just so focused on basketball and baseball and trying to really make it something, make something out of myself in those particular sports. So
sure. Well, I want to ask you about that as a child, in the sense of, is there a moment you remember? Because every kid, that has success or has some talent knows that they have that ability different or better than others. Do you remember a moment, whether it be baseball or basketball, where you remember saying, hey, I have something here that maybe I can do something with that can help me later on?
I don't know if it was really a moment, because to be honest, I love basketball. So I just always thought I was going to be an NBA player. I always did. I just thought that it was just going workout for me. And so I don't really know if it was really a moment because I was always confident. It's crazy to say that, but in my mind, I just thought that's what I wanted to do.
Sure.
So I was just, and I had obviously a few obstacles to get there, but I always just thought that it would happen, to be honest. But it's just, there's a lot of hard work, and I had a lot of good days, a lot of bad days. Obviously, playing high school on a high level, playing, college on a high level, but you still have those bad days. But I never actually didn't want to, make it to the highest level.
Sure.
So
for you, when you were growing up, kids played every sport they could possibly do, stay outside, do whatever they could do. Whereas nowadays, and you probably see it with the kids you work with, and adults you work with how kids nowadays specialize in just one sport, whether it be basketball or soccer or whatever it may be. Do you think it was possible, maybe when you were growing up, compared to these kids, to just focus on basketball, or was it just part of life that you had to do as many sports as you could?
Well, there's a lot of people who did that, and it went well for them. Even myself, I just love baseball so much that I just really put a lot of time into it. I have a son that I train, obviously with all of my other clients, but he doesn't play any other sport. A lot of them don't. They just like to play one sport, whether it's basketball. Even other guys I know that's really good in football, they just play football. So it's like they don't. I actually had a kid who left basketball because he's really good in baseball, and he just stopped. He stopped playing basketball in was that 8th grade, and just stopped coming to work out. He told me why, because his dad was like, he's much better in baseball, and even though he has something in basketball, he wants to pursue that. So he just stopped. So a lot of people tend to do that now.
You talked about in this Instagram live you did with Raw Sports Films a few years ago about going to MCI and your coach there and what that experience was like. But besides that whole experience at MCI, did you ever, leading up to that or leading into college or maybe in professionals, sort of kick yourself in the butt to ever think of what possibly could have happened with baseball growing up, or were you just okay with what happened with baseball?
So it's 6 o'clock now. I'm literally a person that every game somewhere I'm watching the Phillies. I'm literally watching the Phillies. I like baseball in general. Obviously, the Phillies are my team. I'm from Philadelphia, but I'm a guy I'm doing workouts. I'm checking the Phillies score. At a movie, I'm looking at my phone to see the Phillies score, peeking so that the light doesn't mess up the movie theater. I love baseball, but I just was I don't really have those regrets. I would have liked to see what could have happened with that, but so I feel like I love baseball more, but I was better in basketball. So even though I was good in baseball, I played in high school and things like that, I always felt like I would make it in basketball. So that's probably why I don't really have the regrets like that.
In that same Instagram live you did, you talked about a moment where Rasheed Wallace's mother sort of helped you get focused on the right path and focus on basketball and putting in the effort and getting better at the sport. For you growing up, why do you think there was so much disconnect for you in terms of the academic part of school and going to practices and workouts instead of just playing basketball?
So I'll answer the question. It was a big deal, and people put more. I wouldn't say more emphasis, but it definitely was. Pushed on you a lot. When now it's pushed on you, but I feel like it's pushed on you about SATs and things like that. But then it was really because you didn't play. It's rare now that people are ineligible to play because it just is for whatever reason. Compared to back then, that rarely happens now. Where there's a lot of people who didn't take care of their academics, joking around, whatever their reasons was, and they it didn't go well, and they end up being academically ineligible. So I know it's pressed upon us now to make sure that guys are doing what they're supposed to be eligible. It was definitely pushed on. I also want to say I'd like to dedicate this interview. It's amazing, coincidental that you brought that up. But Miss Jackie, who was like a second mom to a lot of us back in the day. She actually just died 2 days ago.
Oh, sorry about
So Rasheeds Mom. So, that was like a big, big deal to all of us. And it's crazy that you called me now and you brought that up about that incident when she talked to me about, getting my act together. She was that type of person. She was great. And just want to dedicate this whole interview and everything to Miss Jackie.
Nowadays, there's instance not just maybe in the state of around where I live, or maybe even in Philly where you live, or across the country there is, where nowadays you have to be careful of as a coach of what you do or what you say or how you act, because they could get you, you could lose your job. And whereas it was not the case many years ago, maybe when you grew up or when my parents grew up, you talked about MCI, your coach, Mr. Good there at MCI, and how much of a different shock that was for you and his ability as a coach and what his attitude and demeanor was like. Growing up, playing in Philly basketball, high school, and your experiences there and what you dealt with, what was that shock like for you in terms of dealing with it?
I was good. So, coaches, they didn't necessarily, they got on me. Philadelphia is a tough place. So they got on me, very competitive. But I just think it was at another level when I went to MCI, because it was really in your face like love all the time. All the time. The words that he said wasn't really nothing different, but it was just the way he said it. And, it was just different. It just really was. So, that was shocking, but it helped me throughout my life, even now as a trainer, coach. Like, I take some of those things from there. Sometimes I wouldn't say get me in trouble, but I have to catch myself because I know it's different times. But I have that in me, and I coach that way. I train that way, maybe to not that extent, but I'm not the 2022 just, hey, a lot of times it's like, you holler at a kid, a parent is going to say something, get upset. If you get on a kid, they're going to transfer or leave your AU situation. Like all of those things you have to worry about, which you didn't have to worry about as much back then. But for me, I'm kind of just, I've adjusted to that, but I'm also me. So it's like, if you don't want to be part of this, I'm trying to, I got your best interest. And if, maybe I get on you a little hard, and that's something that you're not really, you don't really like, then, you probably have to go somewhere else where it's a little lighter, a little softer side. You know what I mean?
Well, and I know exactly where you're coming from. Both my father is a high school tennis coach here in Raleigh. He's been at the high school in my town the last nearly 30 years. And my grandfather's a retired coach, and my grandfather's from the generation where a little tough love goes a long way. And my dad, he's different, his own self, like you said about you, but there's stuff that he probably has taken from him that he expects in practice. And tough love, but it's what needs to be done in order to win, because you know how to be successful. And as most coaches like that know how to be successful. During your time at MCI, and you probably had met him maybe playing in Philly, seeing as he's also from that area, you befriend a fellow Philadelphian named Katino Mobley. What was it about him, not just as a player, but also as a person that you connected with so much at a quick pace?
Well, I knew Kat before then, but he, he's different than me. We're different souls. I'm a little bit more aggressive. He's a little bit more compassionate. It just was different. He played in the Catholic League. You know what I mean? I played in the public league. So everything about us is kind of different. But, he was really we helped each other when we were there in all senses. He helped me deal with not being, I was really in the urban community. And he went to Catholic schools, and he's kind of already used to that, dealing with different races and just all those type of things. So, it was easy. I helped him with his ball handling, passing and things like that. It really wasn't good when we got up there. He helped me with shooting on certain techniques to help my shooting go to another level. So, we really just, bonded up there even more, even though we knew each other, but we bonded up there even more because, we were there every day. We were roommates, we were on the team. Then, that's what made us end up being, really great friends. Obviously, went to college together, we end up being on the Houston Rockets together, so we've been knowing each other for a long time. Things, has made us always in each other's routes. The routes that we went, me and him always found a way to be on the same route. So
why was it important for both of you to play together post prep school basketball?
Obviously we played together well. So I'm finding him. He's scoring. Like, we play together really well. Like, always in school and normal, you could just put us out there 5-on-5 in a rec center. Like, we play well together. And then, back in those days, I would say, we're all best friends. Me, Katino Mobley, Alvin Williams, Rasheed Wallace, all of us, hang out together. Jason Lawson, like, we were like a group. So, but they're not, some of them all almost went to Villanova together. Alvin and Jason went to Villanova, but Rasheed almost went there. So with those guys, when you got your friends that you can play ball with, hang out with socially, go to school, you can be able to do that, why not? So that's what we chose to do.
Prior to going to UNC Charlotte, I should say, how close were you to picking another school over URI? Because I know you mentioned you didn't want to go to Temple because it was too close to home.
Right. Cincinnati was like the dream school for me. Bob Huggins, great coach. All those great players that they had, the Danny Fortsons, the Ruben Pattersons, they had always great team, top 5 team all the time. They look great too. They lifted weights. Like, all those guys was jacked up. Everybody loved Cincinnati. But, when it came down to it, my 2 choices, the first time I went with Rhode Island, with Cuttino, he had big schools as well, bigger than Rhode Island, just like I did, but we chose to go there together. So then the second time, I was really close, but then I just felt like that, I could probably have more of an impact. They were like number 1 top 5 team in the country. So I was like, you know what? Maybe I should go somewhere where a pretty good team, but if they end up being real good, I would have a probably major impact on that happening. And I, trusted myself that I could do that. So that's why I chose UNC Charlotte.
Sure, and you had great success there as well as the rest of the team. Prior to going to UNC Charlotte, the brief period you had at URI, and I had Al Skinner's former assistant coach Tim O'Shea on. He was very recently, and he was very complimentary of your skill and your ability as a player. Going to URI, what was your conversation like with the coaching staff your first year, maybe into any other experience that you had with them, of what you were going to provide to the school, but also what they expected from you?
URI probably would have been a great situation, but 2 things. One, the first day of practice, they were speaking. They had a pretty good team, even though Katino was going to have to sit out, prop 48 guy. We were going to be pretty good, I thought. But then I tore my Achilles the first day of practice, like literally the first day of practice, like the first. So we had 2 practices. So you have the Midnight Madness, and then you have at night, and then you have another practice. I tore my Achilles the first day. So, that started out, I'm all the way up Rhode Island. I'm not playing. Cat's not playing. They didn't necessarily have a great year. So it's cold up there, just like Philadelphia, but even more. It just wasn't like a great time. So then I worked my way back. I thought I was doing really well that summer. The next year, I'm like, we had talked about we brung Tyson Wheeler in, who's a good point guard. So, we like all 3 of us will play together. So it started out not so great it probably lasted 3 games where we started, all 3 of us, me, him, and Cat, and we went like 1-2. And they came to me and said, you should come off the bench. We want you to come off the bench to bring us firepower. And back then, you're a good player. I was a really good player in high school. I was a really good player in prep school. I've been on high-level teams. My high school team, obviously, number 3 in the country. Then we go to prep school, we're number 1 in the country. So I'm like, why am I going to the bench? He was like, because you more of a scorer. But I just couldn't handle that. Like, Coach O'Shea was there. Those guys, I just couldn't handle that because it was an ego thing. And I'm not saying I was wrong for that, because I did feel like I was, probably the better player than over Tyson Wheeler. Like, why are you putting me? I'm a better player than him in my eyes. I love Tyson. It's great. I just talked to him the other day because he came to recruit somebody in Philadelphia like 3 days ago. But I felt like I was the better player. So I was like, and I was there first. I'm like, why? why am I moving to the bench? Like, move him to the bench. So I just couldn't take that. And it never went well the rest of the year. Like, I really would do, immature things.
Sure.
Have great practices. So I would be on the second team. The other team was the first team. So I would score. Let's say the game go to 7. I would score all 7 buckets. And every time I would score, I would say, and I'm on the second team, like just loud so everybody can hear. Thinking like I'm making the coach laugh about it. Like, everybody here knows I'm the better player, but you got me on the bench. Now, Al Skinner, you have to ask him his reasons, but maybe it was just because he felt like Tyson was better or he thought it was better for the team. I don't know, but that didn't sit well with him. So, I just start playing less and less. Like, I was playing a lot off the bench. I was coming in fireworks, but I couldn't handle that. Like, wait, why am I? And I was like, I came back from an Achilles injury, got myself healthy. I feel great. And you sending me to the bench after all this hard work. So I really couldn't. So I really rebelled. Like, I really used to be in there acting crazy, like just like immature, to be honest. So, I learned from that situation that, you just got to handle things. I don't feel like I was wrong to this day. Me and Tyson always laugh about it, just to be honest. But the way I handled it, probably wasn't the best.
Sure. Well, as long as you understand that, but also it's more power to you to believe that you're the better player and that, although you did what you could to help the team in that brief moment, that you have that confidence to believe that you're the better of the two. Being that North Carolina is a bigger state than Ron by a great deal, what was it an easy transition for you to go from URI to then UNC Charlotte?
Yeah, because I'm from Philadelphia, and it's such a great basketball town, great big city. So Charlotte, to be honest, especially back then, is built up bigger now. But it was really looked at. It was a small town to me too, even though it was a city, UNC Charlotte, but it was kind of small compared to where I was coming from. You know what I mean? Like, URI was a blip on the screen, but I'm used to big city, Philadelphia, New York, DC. Like, I'm used to those big places. So it was cool. I enjoyed it. People really nice down there. And UNC Charlotte really wasn't, looked at as big in basketball. You got Duke, you got North Carolina, you got NC State, you got everybody down there. So UNC Charlotte was, even though the city was a nice side, wasn't really looked at basketball like that. So I was happy that, those 2 years I was there, we did amazing things, and even felt like we could have did more and put the school on the map.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So,
during your that first year you were able to play at UNC Charlotte, you not only did the team have the great success with Melvin Watkins, but you also find yourself scoring the second on the scoring list for the team. What was it like to have so much freedom on the court as a player there?
We had a team of guys that chips on their shoulders. Versus Shaw, Kelvin Price. Like, we really had guys that were, that they were really ready to go from the beginning. They had those guys. Before I came, they had obviously DeMarco Johnson, great player. DeMarco was there 2 years before I was there. He was a junior, and then Shandair Downs. Like, they had guys, Andre Davis. They had a lot of guys who had chips on their shoulder. So when we came, Alex Cool. So when I came, supposed to be me and Versal Shaw came. We were the newcomers. So, we just added. To what they already had. And, it was a great mix. And then obviously Coach Watkins, that was his first year. So it was good times.
Well, what was that like? I mean, I'll get to the next season as well later down the road. But to have a coach like Watkins only be there for 2 years, the 2 years that you were there, and have that success, what was that also like combined with your success you had?
It was good. Coach Watt was an assistant for a long time. That was his first ever job. So, he had a chip on his shoulder. Felt like he should have been a coach a long time ago and a head coach. And, he put the ball in my hands and said, can you get us there? Like, because when you win, it makes everybody look good. I'm just coming there. It's making me look good. DeMarco's been there doing well. He's a Charlotte kid. It makes him look well. Coach Watkins, longtime assistant. Now he a first-time head coach. It makes him look. So everybody had chips on their shoulders, and I felt like we all banded together, and that's why, it was really a good 2 years there.
Sure. That year, you played Louisville 3 times, twice during the regular season, and then once in the conference tournament. What was it like to go from maybe losing to them during the regular season twice to then beating them in the conference tournament that first year you were there?
I would say, they were a really good team. Nate Johnson, Alvin Sims, DeWine Wheat, like they had a lot of good players. So, they were a tough matchup for us. They were very athletic, obviously. They always trying to get out to get dunks and alley oops and all those type of things. So, to beat them, we felt like we could beat them. It was good games in the regular season, but they just beat us.
Sure.
Conference USA was incredible back then. So, we just felt like that we could beat them, and then we got in the conference tournament. We finally actually got it done instead of saying it and thinking it. We actually got it done. So
sure. Before the conference tournament, you guys end the season on a 7-1 record. What was the confidence level like in terms of the damage you guys could do in the conference tournament, but also the NCAA tournament, but also making sure it's not consuming you and you're falling short?
I mean, you just got to go hard. Back then, it's different now. Conference USA is more of a football school, to be honest, conference. But then, I mean, Louisville, Memphis, it was just incredible. Louisville, Memphis. Larry Hughes was 1 year at St. Louis. Like, it was just like anyway, Paul McPherson, like it really was. At Cincinnati, obviously, like I spoke earlier about all the great teams they had. Marquette, like everybody that, so many tournament teams and, teams that could have been in the tournament. So it was great times back then, great competition. So many NBA players went from those schools and made it. So, it was a big deal back then, Conference USA. If you did well, it was a big accomplishment.
That year you make the NCAA tournament, you lose to Utah in the second round. Were you ready for that attention in terms of that grand stage of being the big dance?
So the first game we played Illinois, Chicago. Marco had 30. I had 21 and 11.
Wow.
So we could beat anybody. And it was one of the good experiences for me. I didn't really play great. I didn't shoot great. They put he's actually a coach now for Utah. He does things for Utah. His name is Alex Jensen. He's like 6'6", and they put him on me to try to control me because they felt like I was the engine, and I didn't really play great. And he was a bigger guy, bigger obviously. So that helped me throughout my career learn to play against bigger guys. The coach will have. The next year, I know we'll talk about that, but so having bigger guys guard me in practice. So, that really helped me. But that was really the first experience of having somebody that tall guard me the entire game. Bigger, stronger. I'm just trying to figure it out. So I was off a little bit too. It was just me, but he definitely had something to do with their whole team. Obviously, they had Keith Van Horn, they had Andre Miller. But they didn't put Andre Miller on me. They didn't put the point guard. They put I guess he played like the 2 or 3, but he was tall, 6'5", 6'6". So, that was a good experience for me. Not at the moment, but it ended up being a good experience for me overall.
Sure, a humbling experience, I'm sure. The following year, you have similar success in terms of the end of the year result and your statistics. Like playing Louisville a lot the previous season, you find the team finds itself playing Cincinnati and Marquette a lot during the regular season, as well as, I believe, in the conference tournament. What was it like to play against those ranked teams such as Cincinnati and Marquette at that point in college basketball?
Well, that year we were ranked top 15 preseason. So I didn't play the first couple games, and we lost. So, we dropped out of the rankings fast. So we had ground to make up. I didn't play the first, I believe it's 2 games, and we lost. So we had a lot of time to make up, and we did. We ended up having a really good season, and we beat the Cincinnati's and them in the regular season, and it was like I said, it was every night. It was always something. Like that year, that senior year, like I said, had Larry Hughes and all those guys. So it was incredible those years. It was just packed from top to bottom. So,
Sure.
we didn't feel like we felt like, especially that year, felt like we had a really good team. We had defenders. We had, tough guys, Kelvin Price, Galen Young. Like we really had a good team. And, and it showed because that's why we did so well. We lost it was Marquette upset Cincinnati. So I think we relaxed when we played Marquette in the championship. The year before we lost to Cincinnati in the championship. Maybe they may have been a little bit better than us. But then the next year, my senior year, we lost to Marquette. I felt like that was a team we had beaten the regular season, and we lost to them in the conference championship. Because I think we felt like, oh man, we don't have to play Cincinnati, so let's we probably let up a little bit, at least even in our mind. And they played a good game and they beat us. They beat us in a close game, but that was something I definitely regret that I didn't get a conference championship, as far as like conference tournament championship.
That year, you make the NCAA tournament again, making it to the second round before falling to number one ranked UNC in overtime, 83-93. What was the mindset like against playing probably the best team in the country in that second round? Was there any fear at all, or were you ready to possibly beat them?
No, to be honest, we felt like the game showed it. Felt like we matched up with them well. Sometimes, obviously sports is about matchups, but they had Ed Cota, really good point guard, but then we had me. They had a power forward, Antoine Jameson, but we had DeMarco. Now, I'll say these names, but they had Vince Carter. But, we had Galen Young. Galen Young, one of the best, rest in peace, Galen Young, who just was in a car accident last year, one of my best guys. Crazy. But anyway, Galen Young played against Vince Carter. He's one of the best defenders in the country. So he played against Vince. So they had Brendan Haywood. We had Kelvin Price. Like, we felt like even though those guys were NBA guys, that we had some NBA guys on our team, and we had guys who maybe not NBA guys, but they was tough and they played so hard that there wasn't going to be afraid. It wasn't going to be a mismatch. We wasn't going to have to play like the perfect game or anything like that. So we felt good.
You had success there, deservedly so. You're an NBA level talent. I know you had mentioned that you were supposed to get drafted 41st or 44th in the NBA draft that year, and then you go and drafted. Before the draft, what was your mindset or viewpoint in terms of your future as a professional player?
Man, I felt like I would get drafted and I would be in the NBA, and obviously I didn't think I was going first round, but I was like, I would really work. Went to Chicago, my team went 5-0. Thought I played well there. So, I felt like, I would go second round and then I would have to grind. And it ended up being an NBA lockout year anyway. So, it would have been tough on everybody, especially the second rounders. But, I felt good about
it. And I don't know how much you had time in terms of reconnecting with him there, but you had mentioned early on you reconnected with Cuttino down in Houston for the Rockets. How much time did you spend with him in Houston? Because I know your time might have been brief there.
So I was there on the Rockets for a year. But I had, Cuttino got drafted and he went there first. So I was in the CBA, grinding and hustling and trying to make it and get up. But I had always went down there. It's crazy with him, because he's my guy. Going to see him play, seeing him play against the Lakers, Kobe, Shaq, all those type of things. Would just go to games whenever I could, especially after CBA season. Went to some he played the playoffs his first year. He had Scottie Pippen and he played with Olajuwon that year. But then even the next year, he was playing with, Steve Francis and all those guys. So, I have been down there a little bit and just around, when you come home, you're not in the NBA, so you're going to games and things like that. So, we never lost contact. We talked every day probably. You know what I mean? We wasn't just teammates, really, really good friends, probably best of friends back in those days. So, it was good to see him do well. And then obviously when I got in, and I was there for a year, with him, that was great times. I got to play Hakeem Olajuwon was on that team. Steve Francis, Walt Williams, Maurice Taylor, like Moochie Norris. Like, I got a lot of great memories from playing with the Rockets. And, Rudy T was my coach, Rudy Tom Jonathan. So a lot of great memories from that situation. And it was great to share them with Cat since we, knew each other already from back in Philly and high school and college and all that. So,
How soon after your time in the CBA, USBL, and NBA, what was overseas basketball your top priority?
went over, played in the EuroLeague in Poland, did well, and I was just like, now it's NBA overseas. I'm going to try to do it. I'm like, what? I want to guarantee. And I wasn't getting that. So I just, went overseas where I knew it was guaranteed. And once I went over there, you know, in those times, even now it's tougher, but especially then, you kind of got to decide. So I decided that was what it was. Probably wish I would have never went, period, just because I went because I wasn't playing as much
Sure.
when I was in the NBA. So I was like, they wanted me back, the Rockets. But I was like, man, I really want to play more. It wasn't like a 100% guarantee I was going to play more. I'm playing behind Steve Francis. I'm playing behind Moochie Norris. So it was tough. So I just decided that I would go where I knew I was going to play.
Sure.
And, I went overseas and, I kind of regret it because I would have had more years. I would
Sure.
have had more years in the NBA than I did. So, I had my short time in Atlanta and then my 1 year with the Rockets. So I would have had more years, which probably would have helped me overall just in life. And just, I'd rather play in the NBA than I would play in
Sure.
Europe. But, I had great times and, I've done well in Europe. I can't really complain about that. I had a fantastic career, so I really can't complain.
How important to you over there was experiencing the different cultures and the different cities and what was going on there compared to the statistical aspect of playing overseas basketball?
I mean, I met great people. Obviously, I played in Italy for 4 years. I played in France. I was lucky. I actually got to play in great places, great cities. None of that where the internet's not working or the team doesn't isn't paying you and things like that. I really didn't have those issues, and I played in great cities where, I'm playing in, you know, south of France. I'm playing in the south of Italy. I'm playing in right next to Milan. So I'm playing in excellent play. I'm playing in Russia in Moscow. I'm not playing like in the country and way up in the mountains. Like I really didn't have those situations. So I
Sure.
was lucky enough to, be making really great money and I was playing well, you know what I mean? Winning, I won MVP in Italy. I won MVP in France. So I played great. I got paid. I was in great cities, great experiences, museums, restaurants, things that, I wish I even would have did more of that, now that I reflect. But, I did enough of it and I had great times over there. Met a lot of great people, a lot of great people.
How much I not chuckling in the sense of laughing at it in a making fun way, but chuckling when you shared a story on that the Instagram live of you were on a soda can there as with your face on there, and your mother or whoever it was sort of like, oh my gosh, you're on that can. How much of a humbling experience was exposure like that for you as a young player over there?
Yeah, it was good. I was more like, how can I say? I was treated I was treated a lot like a soccer player. Obviously soccer and football is the big sport over there. Basketball is as well, but soccer is always will be number one in Europe. I was treated like that. You know what I mean? Like I said, they put me on a Pepsi can where, you buying sodas and, you see me. I mean? I still have some to this day, but and a lot of people that I gave them to friends and family have them. But it was humbling when, one of my friends in another city, when we were in Italy, you have a lot of guys playing in Europe, would call me and be like, I'm at this supermarket. Please don't tell me that this is you on a Pepsi can. This can't be. Like we laughing and joking. I'm like, yeah. And it's just, so that was great. I mean, when people see that even now to this day, like, man, you were on Pepsi cans, and they selling them in stores. And so it was, that was a big deal back then. So, I was happy to be able to experience that.
You mentioned you played in France. You were one of the top scorers, if not the top scorer, one season there in that league. What did that mean to you, especially everything that took to get to that point?
It was tough. It was good and bad. because I went over there, played a really good season, and then my second season, I was more comfortable and it was different, just everything. The referees, the teams, everything. Players is players, but just the whole thing. So my second year, I really wasn't on a great team. My first year. My second year was an okay team, but if they got somebody that could really do well, could kind of be like a main player, could probably help them, and that's what happened. We ended up being in top 3 in the league. It was going great. I led the league in scoring and assists and free throws, so it was great. And then I tore my other Achilles towards the end of the season, so it was like it was a good thing, but it was like that happened, and it was like, what? Like, how can this happen?
Yeah.
Like, how can this happen again? So, tore my right Achilles then, and but I had a good time. Like I said, I was in the south of France, right by Cannes and Nice, so I really didn't have no complaints. Just even with the lifestyle, the fun times, the weather is great. You go 30 minutes, and the Cannes Film Festival is there. Like,
Wow.
it's just unbelievable. So, like, I definitely enjoyed my time in France for my 2 years that I was there.
Most people sort of stay in the dance circle longer than they should be, or it ends on a poor note. You were able to end on your own terms and sort of end on a high note, even though you probably could have maybe stayed a little bit longer in
Yeah,
the
for
game.
sure.
What did that mean to you in terms of leaving at the top of your potential as a player?
So I had a little couple things I needed to handle with my daughter. Uh, so I wanted to come back home. She wanted me to come home, and I needed to come home. So I came home, and then I went back, but it just wasn't the same. So I was doing well, but I wasn't like a dominant player. I was a
Sure.
good player. So, all these years I'm averaging 25, 30 points. I'm averaging 10 assists. Like, it was more like 17 and 7. Now I
Okay.
can have those games where I'm getting 20s and up, but I just wasn't down. And for me, I was just like, I don't know if it's me. I don't know if it's my head because I'm thinking about home. 'Cause I was thinking about like getting out of there. I wasn't really, I see a lot of players that play 35, 36 years old. Like, I didn't do that. You know what I mean? So that was kind of interesting. But I decided that, it was time to, start my next life. And, I ended up coming home.
Similar to looking to the opportunity in the presentation of possibly playing overseas as a player after college and that in the NBA career, how soon after that professional career and you ending that you're retiring, did you decide to continue to have a relationship with basketball in terms of coaching and training?
Sometimes, your calling calls you. It's not
Sure.
you going to it. I literally just got a call and somebody asked me, do I want to, how much do I charge? And I was like, I don't charge. I don't really do this. But then, like I said, my friend Alvin Williams was like, maybe you should look into this. And like, you're good at it. Maybe you should do that. So I was like that. So the next time somebody called, I said, you know what? This is what I charge. And that was the beginning of it. And it just developed from there.
What does this new part of basketball that you're in coaching and training provide you that playing did not wasn't able to?
It keeps you in the game. I love watching the game and things like that. But nothing is more competitive than playing. Even
Sure.
when I first got into it, I was coach at high school, coach at AAU. I'm like, I'm a out coach that coach down there. That's the competitor in me. But even that, it's not nothing is the same as playing.
Sure.
So now, I love training. I'm like, okay, you can kind of, you know, be along the ride along with someone else's journey. You know what I mean? You're a big help and just there, whatever it is, playing, advice, helping them socially, whatever it is, you're along for their journey. So, that because you're not playing anymore.
Last question I want to ask you for this little game I have is growing up in Philadelphia and you playing with guys who didn't care how good you were and they would tell you that. What would you be doing now and where would you be?
Uh, I guess I would be in probably New York somewhere. I don't know what I would be doing, but like, you know, I've been to all these countries, all these great cities in the United States, all of them by playing in the NBA, playing in Europe. But like New York is a place that, and it's only 90 minutes from me, maybe a little bit more. It's like when I get there, the energy just makes me be like, just something different. So I will be doing something in New York for sure. I don't know what, but like I love New York. You know, a lot of the time New York, people think they're the greatest at everything. You know what I mean? Bad people from New York they think New York is the greatest, but I'm gonna be honest, for me, I feel that way a lot of times. You know, I love Philadelphia, that's where I'm from. Love Los Angeles, Miami, a lot of cities I frequent. But like when I go to New York, I just love it. Like the people, the food, just everything at any time. Summer, even when it's cold, I just like to go there. So, that's a place I love to frequent.
Sure. Now, before we go here again, I'm grateful for your time, so thank you. I want to end on this little game called the One Word Challenge. So in this, what this entails is I'll throw out a few names of people, places, or things that have some connection to my guest, being Sean Colson. He has to do his best to come up with a word or two or sentence that best comes to mind when he hears it. So, Sean, are you ready?
Yes.
First one, Philadelphia.
Tough.
UNC Charlotte.
Experience.
Overseas basketball.
Great.
Hard work.
A must.
Success.
Blessed.
And last but certainly never least in this cosmic universe of ours, Sean Colson.
Good guy.
I have to share that sentiment, if not twice fold. Well, Sean, again, I want to thank you for your time. This has been a true treat, and have you graciously provide stories and your sort of experiences through life and in basketball.
Right. No, I appreciate it, man. Appreciate you having me.
Of course. Well, if you like this, because who the hell wouldn't like it? And next time when Sean gets this next big time player that he's training that makes it to the NBA and helps him in life afterwards, you're just like, holy crap, I should subscribe back then. So subscribe, follow, comment, share, follow on Instagram, Nolan Cart Night, and Twitter, Nolan Cart Night Show, or Nolan Cart Night Show on Instagram and Nolan Cart Night on Twitter. Sean, is there anything that you'd like to share or put out there for everyone to know about?
Nah, man, just, want everybody to be safe and, blessed. And, I'm doing great. Life is good. I have a family. I have doing a lot of big things with the training and things like that. Want to be an NBA coach, even if it's player development, just out here grinding every day and just trying to get players better. And that's it. Love UNC Charlotte, too. Definitely wanted to throw that out there. I know you're in North Carolina, so love UNC Charlotte for sure.
Of course. Well, in the words of the Dean of Talk Shows, Johnny Carson, I bid you all heartfelt good night. Till next time, take care.